Hello, class. I want to talk about some contemporary photorealistic painters. So these aren't artists that are necessarily a part of the photorealism movement, which occurred during a specific time with a specific group of artists. But these are painters who use photographs and make paintings that appear photographic. The first one we're going to talk about is Marilyn Minter. Marilyn Minter lives and works in New York City, and she often paints the female body and food. And much of her work looks very luscious and seductive. And much of her artwork explores and critiques the depiction of women's bodies in popular media. And that should be woman with an E, not an A. And here's Marilyn Minter talking in front of one of her paintings. As you can see, it's quite large scale. So here's one of her works called Freckles. And really you could see how the tension is brought to the surface of the skin. You could see that there's tension brought to the sweat, tension brought to these freckles, and other parts of the skin. Here's one called Spiked. And you can see that she's taking kind of a common image from fashion photography of hills and the foot, and she's kind of making it a little grimier. Here's another work, and in this one, there's attention brought to the surface of this glass. Okay, so a lot of attention to the surface, either of the glass, of the human body, and other images that are seductive on the surface. Here's one called Drain, and I'm really attracted to this composition. Like at first it seems a little visually heavier on the left, but then if you look a little closer, you start to be drawn to this area, which looks very, which you could see like the drips, but kind of slowly eases in on you. And then you could start to see that there's a piece of hair here. Here's a work called Chewy. And what's interesting about this one is how these pieces of jewelry look kind of plasticky and a little bit cheap. Here's another artist, Jason DeGraff. So he's an artist who works in Canada, and he makes still life paintings that don't follow the photograph completely. So he takes photos of items, but then he changes his perspective and kind of changes the reflection. So really his paintings stand apart from the photographs because he alters them. Here's one of his works called Untitled. And you're probably looking at this one, and what it's missing really is the camera. Okay, you can't see the camera here. So here's another one called Neapolitan, and for me this one looks like the reflection's a little bit distorted. Okay, here's another one called Aether, and this one's really interesting. I really like this depiction of the screen and the beautiful reflection that's brought into this part, and the depiction of this writing. It's really beautiful. But you're looking at it, it still looks a little constructed. It doesn't look quite true to life. So here's one of paint. It's really interesting. I think for some reason this focus looks very photographic as well. Okay, and he likes to do a lot of work with toys. It's a really beautiful image that he painted. Okay, so here's another artist, Ana Teresa Fernandez. She was born in Tampico, Mexico, and she's both a performance artist and a painter. And her work explores gender, race, and class in Western society. And so basically, what she does is she does performances, and they're photographed, and then she makes paintings from these photographic documentation. So here's a photograph of her doing one of her projects where she painted out part of the border so that it blended in with the sky. Okay, and so she took these, or she had somebody take a photograph of her doing this, which was one of her performances, and then she made a painting from it. So here's another work, and I'm not sure exactly what performance happened here, but this is a painting that's done from photographic documentation of one of her performances. And here's another painting that was done from photographic documentation of one of her performances.